Well, good evening, everybody, and this is Splurge. For the first time in absolutely ages, I'm bringing you, hopefully, a whole season coverage for Krash Season 7. I can't make that promise. I'd love to be able to. And I think I might actually have some sort of time in my evenings now where I can actually record. However, it does mean that it is ASMR Splurge. So apologies for that. But yeah, so season 7 is upon us. This season I will be playing in the Giratina division. We have two divisions this season. We have Arceus and Giratina. Obviously Arceus is for the tryhards and Giratina is for the scuffed boys like myself. So this is week 1 and I'm playing against a Hopeless. I would love to be able to just quickly pull up his team name because I can't remember for the life of me. The Hackensack Strikers. In Hackensack Strikers this week, like I totally knew what that meant beforehand. And so Hopeless's draft was pretty solid, if I do say so myself. He had a Megalopony, Celesteela, Dragovich, Tapafini, Rotom Mo, Hippowdon, Skuntank, Mismagius, Azelf, Typhlosion. And for a set of 10 mons, you can't really fault it too much. I mean, obviously, I'm recording this at a point when Ilkid is... I'm holding up at Ilkid from actually releasing the power ranking, so you never know. But yeah, no, this is a scary team with a Sandcore with a Dracovish. On top of that, with Celesteela and Megalopony, this team could do bits given half a chance. What we have to play with this season's, of course, transactions pending, whether or not I actually do decide to change anything. We have Urshifu and the single strike variant. We have Spectria, Victini, Ferrothorn, Toxapex, Donphan, Noivern, Thunderous Therian, Pinsir, and Mega Ordino. But yeah, so for this battle, what we can see is that I brought the Ferrothorn, the Ferropex core with Sunday T, Victini, Urshifu, and Spectria. And Hopeless brought the Sand core, Finny, Rotom Mo, Skuntank, and Celesteela. Going into prep, I was terrified of having to deal with a Megalopony. My team is a little on the slow side at the speed, his could be better. But yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world. Also, just as context, I don't have Spotify Premium anymore, so you might be listening to adverts at some point. No guarantees. I have no clue because I've muted it in my ears anyway. But yeah, so looking at this matchup, I'm a Chople Urshifu, Slackberry substitute variant of Spectria, I believe, a standard Toxapex, a Body Press Gyro Ball Ferrothorn with Rocks and Leech Seed, a Scarfed Thundy T to try and have some sort of speed control, a mixed Victini. So looking at this with the prep, the main concern for me was the Megalop and the Dracovish, given, you know, they just kind of click buttons and things fall down. So my Ferro was EV'd so that if it was anything other than banded Strongjaw Dracovish, it would not be 2-hit KO'd, at which point it became more manageable for the rest of my team, and so kind of Ferro was in part a kind of temperature gauge on that. Along with that, the Chople Urshifu was there basically just for the Lopunny to deal with whatever fighting move it gave, and then could return with a Drain Punch, which was a roll to Oko. The Thundy Tea as well was also there just in case Dracovish wanted to run Scarf, or there was some other weird Scarf, and I think it outran particular variants of Autotomize Celesteela, but don't quote me on that. And Spectria, if the Lopunny didn't come and Skuntank was dealt with, Spectria did bits, given half an opportunity. But yeah, so looking at this leading off, I wanted to not particularly give away much momentum, so I just decided to lead Victini. And so what we see here is straight in with the Rotom Cut. So this is an easy mon to U-turn out on and get a bit of momentum. He switches into Dracovish. Now this immediately was an opportunity to try and test the waters with Ferrothorn. The good thing to do with Ferrothorn is that its body press was guaranteed to break subs of most Celesteela variants. As I was aware that Celesteela was a little bit, it enjoyed the idea of subbing up on my stall core, so I was trying to mitigate from that as well in the prep. But yeah, so this was the first opportunity where I could actually tempt the Dracovish to hit something, because so if it was banded, it became less of an, if it was banded strong draw, then I didn't need to be worried about the sand and that thing going nuts in sand. If it was, then Ferrothorn could actually kind of go toe to toe with it in terms of returning relatively equal damage. I think body press is doing somewhere between like high 20s to low to mid 40%. But yeah, so this is the first opportunity. I think I went for a Leech Seed. I'm not sure. It may have just been a straight up body press. So yeah, I just went for the body press to Celesteela switch in, showing that actually we can break substitutes if need be. I just play for the simple plays at this point. I don't reckon the Celesteela has Earthquake. I think Celesteela can learn Earthquake. But so it should be a relatively easy matter of just blue flaring. If you're going to give me 25% of your health, then that's fine. But so we get revealed both Substitute and Leech Seed. This is good to know given the fact that we're relatively certain now that Celesteela isn't an offensive variant. Something that I don't particularly enjoy dealing with. Finny now comes in. At this point, I was relatively certain, given what I'd shown, that Celesteela didn't want to actually have to sit in and take a blue flare versus Victini. So I ran that gamble and went for the U-turn. Not particularly predicting the Finny, just predicting some sort of switch, and it gave me the opportunity to gain some momentum. So Ferrothorn comes in, Celesteela comes back out. I think this is the point where I Leech Seed. This is to just kind of mitigate against the Celesteela switching again. Don't want to give it too many opportunities just to kind of sit around and start doing stally Celesteela things. Of course, given the fact that we now know that Celesteela is a defensive variant, it is more inviting to stick Leech Seed on instead of just going for the body press, given the fact that it's more of a it's putting pressure on the mon not to stay in for too long, otherwise there is a consistent sap on its health, especially given that Ferrothorn is also a grass type, so it can't be Leech Seeded. But within the context of it being a defensive variant, I was also relatively certain then that it was going to have one of Air Slash or Heavy Slam, and then probably Flamethrower to deal with Ferrothorn specifically in that 1v1 matchup. So what we just saw after that was a set of double switches. I went for the aggressive play going into Thundy T. I wasn't really certain what to expect here. I think from memory this was like gambling on, oh excuse me, potentially like a Rotom Mo switch, or back into one of Finny or Dracovish, which wouldn't have made much sense. But yeah, just kind of, I was gambling vaguely on a non-move from either the Celesteela or a switch into Rotom Mo. And so what we saw was the Rotom Mo did switch in, and then so we've now see that it's immediately switched back out to Hippowdon. I think I'll just go for the U-turn here, gaining back more momentum. And we bring back in Ferrothorn doing the finest at the moment. And this is an opportunity for both sides to set up rocks. They hurt me more than the other side, however, with how my team's set up, I appreciate just picking up the chip whenever, because at the point when you give the opportunity for Victini or Urshifu or Spectre just to click a button, just having the opportunity to put something in range of a one-shot from one of the other ones as well is hugely beneficial. So what we see here is Rotom brings the tech. It's a nice trick set. It's tricked onto, so we now have Scarfed Ferrothorn, which is going to put in work with Body Press to take down the Rotom. So this means that there's no more defog opportunities for Hopeless's side at least. We then see the Skuntank come in. I was relatively confident that it would be carrying Flamethrower or some sort of fire coverage, so I switch into Urshifu. It shows Fire Spin, so it's a trapping set as well, which isn't nice, possibly a Stall Core Breaker. I U-turn straight out as Tapu Fini comes in into Sunday T, and this is an opportunity to run to make just a simple read. Most of the game up until now has been fairly respectful but basic play, so we've been just kind of making simple plays, feeling out each other. This is an opportunity to try and make an aggressive read on the Hippowdon switching in. I correctly read, picked up the Grass Knot, and did 63%. Now, so moving into the next turn, this is an opportunity to actually maintain momentum and force Hippowdon into a bad space in this matchup, because given the knowledge that I'm now Grass Knot, it has to switch out, given its importance to causing issues around electric cover, clicking buttons and how useful that is versus Celesteela, Finny and Dracovish. It has to switch out at this point, so just to not kind of mentally boom myself, I decided to click Grass Knot again, because if it doesn't, then this is a winning move for me in the game, because as soon as Hippowdon goes down, both Thundurus and Victini have a far easier time of just sitting on the field clicking electric type moves, which hit Skuntank neutrally and Dracovish neutrally. But for Celesteela and Finny, the other two mons which are kind of vital to the Stall Core, well not the Stall Core, but the bulky core of Hopeless's team, it's game. So for the next turn, I stay in and click Grass Knot. He Hopeless suitably switches out into Skuntank, trying to give the opportunity for Hippowdon to live and fight another day. I swap out into Urshifu again, which, I mean, so I just want to take this moment. Skuntank, I didn't necessarily predict it to turn up. It wasn't out of the realms of possibility given the necessity to have something that might be able to answer Spectre, but out of the mons that were there, it was the mon that I didn't properly prep for, especially given the really nice set that Hopeless brings, which we'll see in work in I think a couple of times. Um, I don't have a glass of water. This was a mistake. But so what we see is the switch back out to Finney. Again, just respectful play, going for the sensible moves, putting pressure on the Urshifu not to hang around for too long. I click the Drain Punch, just making simple plays in case Skuntank wants to try and hang around. It's like I now have a suitable amount of momentum in the game, and and an advantage where I'd expect Hopeless to start trying to play doubles, like the more aggressive doubles, and going for more riskier moves. So just clicking making the simple plays at this point is I'm perfectly fine with it. So having an opportunity to click Toxic, I'll take it. Even if it means it just gives Celesteela a free opportunity, I have the Mons in hand to be able to click the correct buttons to do damage, as we see here. So Celesteela chooses to go for the aggressive play again. And again, this is another point where oh, I'm suffering from no water. This is another opportunity where Celesteela has to switch out, given that the Bolt Strike is putting quite a lot of pressure on it. And we have seen Blue Flare, I think, we've seen Blue Flare shown from Victini before. And he will have probably calced that I'm specially biased. And so the roll is in my favour, I think, to KO at 60%. But so again, it's just another opportunity where I get to play a simple move, but it forces another bulky mon that has the opportunity to reset its health to not to. So whilst it's still at 60%, it's now at a point where it is closer in range to being taken out by either Spectra or Thunderous, and is in range from Victini. So we see the switch out to Tapu Fini at this point. What we'll see is the Blue Flare from me, I think. It's just simple play. It picks up 23% on a mon that doesn't have recovery. However, we do see now that Victini is getting low, so this is the point where I think Victini just kind of takes a back seat in the game for a moment. We see the Scold. I think that's the first time we see Scold. Oh no, it's the second time we see Scold. And then the Taunt from Finny. I went for the aggressive Stealth Rocks because I think Stealth Rocks up at this point in the game would probably spell disaster. Thankfully though, with how Taunt is... given the game mechanics of Taunt, I'm actually able to click a different move with my Scarf instead of just being locked into being taunted on Stealth Rocks. So I went for Body Press because it's not a bad move against the rest of his mons, and I didn't expect Finny want to risk the opportunity of taking a Gyro Ball. And so I do get rewarded as Dracovish comes in to try and aggressively deal with one half of my Stalker. We also fortunately pick up a crit. This made this 1v1 a whole lot easier. So we now have Dracovish again. It's another mon now that is well within range of my big hitters, and it's also up against a mon that kind of has been hamstrung for its utility, however also still has teeth to really deal some damage, as we see. So I'm happy to stay in and click Body Press again. And generally I'm just happy to stay here until I feel like Ferrothorn's usefulness has run out. So I click Body Press again, but so again this is at a point where I'm facing another mon which doesn't particularly like to hang around against Ferrothorn, but given the fact that I'm locked into Body Press, I also don't want to hang around. So I went for the aggressive switch into Thundy T, as we see the switch into Skuntank. Again, just wanting to make simple plays, get some nice chip off on stuff that doesn't have reliable recovery. go for the U-turn. I switch into GlitchxCity. This is probably the only sequence of moves which really showed this is the sequence of moves that really showed my lack of preparation for the Skuntank set. I let GlitchxCity get trapped in at this point, and I'm in the mindset of just, well, GlitchxCity doesn't really have much utility here within the matchup anymore, given its moveset, and at that point I can just click Scold, I can get Chip up. I'm not particularly in week 1 looking to get the 6-0, so we get to reveal parts of this set, and we also get to see just how good this Skuntank set is. The Acid Spray, Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, Fire Spin is really hot. I really like this set. I'm an advocate of Skuntank not being straight trash, and this is a good battle to show that it does have some utility to it. So we then come to a point where we have Urshifu in as the Tapu Fini switches in. We click the Wicked Blow, just getting a bit more chip on that juicy goodness. And then we go for the U-turn out into Thundy. At this point, again, this is big play moment. Just going for simple stuff again. I can afford to just keep on switching, keeping up that momentum, switch into another threat. And so for this, I chose not to try and really go for the jugular on Finny or Stealer or whatever decides to switch in. So I knew that Hippowdon at some point in this matchup wants to try and come in and actually get a slack off, because at that point the sand core gets a lot more difficult to deal with. Even in the it's like, even though the game is still only 5v5 at this point, it's like I am now in a position where if Hippowdon goes down, this game feels like it should end relatively quickly, given the fact that Dracovish is in range of Iron Barbs. It's also not a set, well, so given the damage that it's shown, it is not a set that is Strong Jaw or Scarf. It's more likely to look like a Sandcore set of like Band Sand Rush. And then from there, you can take your pick of the rest of the mons that are just going to do the clearing up work. So as Finny switches out, I think I just click U-turn here to get a bit more chip off. Again, chip is just the name of the game. Oh no, I click Psychic. Okay, and that puts Hippowdon at 1. Again, this is another opportunity where it's just like Hopeless will know at this point that this mon is choiced. At that point, there is an easy switch in to try and mitigate taking any more damage, but it also consigns Hippowdon now to be on 1 HP whenever it comes back in. At that point, I just need not Ferrothorn in to be able to finish off Hippowdon, and at that point, I'm feeling confident that the game is in my corner. So I'm happy just to click Psychic again. Don't mind Skuntank coming in. It's a nuisance, and Urshifu is starting to take a bit more damage than I'd like it to, but we're in a position where this is looking better and better. Just the longer that we keep up this mantra of just taking small wins, maintaining momentum, forcing the switching, getting off just that little bit of chip, keeping on pumping at it. So again, Finny comes in, I'm able to bring in Thunderous again, force this interesting 50-50 between, does he take the Thunderbolt, does he not, does he try and make the aggressive play and take Hippowdon? And ultimately at this point, this is the move where I click U-turn, because again, I just have other mons which are happy to switch into Finny and start putting in work. And if Hippowdon comes in, I get rewarded again for just playing a patient game. And so I choose to switch into Victini. This probably isn't the most sensible of leads into this 5v4 scenario. But all for I think my reasoning for it was just I did not want to deal with Cellar Stealer at this point. I can play around the other. I've managed to corral Hopeless into a corner where he's only happy to really play around Dracovish, Finny, Skuntank, and actually bringing in Victini also kind of tempts the Dracovish out to try and play in the Sandstorm whilst it's still up. At which point it's an easy bait for the Ferrothorn switch in. So we do manage to tempt the Dracovish in. I switch to Ferrothorn. It goes to Vicious Rend, understandably wanting to try and get some sort of damage down, but doesn't get particularly rewarded for it, unfortunately. So then we have the Skuntank in. At this point I'm happy for Ferrothorn to go down. I just want a clean switch in to try and put down as much damage on the Skuntank. So I let Ferrothorn go down to the Flamethrower. Skuntank picking up both of the Stall Core. I mean, fair play to it. I bring in Victini, so I could have gone for the blue flare here and just ended it, but this is probably the moment where I could have gone for the jugular, but I didn't, and this is showing too much hesitancy in my play, and I want to try and get better at balancing when to be patient in the game and when to really go for it. So I click the U-turn to go back into Urshifu, and it gets Dark Pulse, which does 7%, so this is by the by. And so now it invites the Finny in, and I think I just went straight for the poison jab. Yeah, it's like my focus now is try and tempt in the Finny, get it as low as possible so that something can just clear. Didn't really mind that Urshifu went down, because at this point now Victini was in a position where it could just click coverage moves and the game was done. So it clicked the Energy Ball, it then clicked Blue Flare, and it clicked Blue Flare once more, and we win 3-0. It's a good start to the season. We take these wins. It was a great game versus Hopeless. I really enjoyed this game. It wasn't I didn't feel like I totally had it won all the way through. It really was quite cerebral. It was a patient game, and it was the kind of, I feel like it was the kind of game that I needed to kind of get myself back into Pokemon and start the season off well. But yeah, so GG, this was a good game. I hope everybody's enjoyed watching this, and until next week and all of the cursedness, I hope everybody has a good week. Bye.